A healthy, happy, and fulfilled family. It is a pleasure to be with you here tonight. My name is Ryder J. Champulian. You know me, the modern day monk, back after an adventure across the planet to Iceland to take in the good, beautiful things in this world, spend some time with my wife on our belated honeymoon. And now we are back. We are back in action, grounded, settled, all the good things going on, and happy to share this time here with you tonight. What will we be talking about in this wonderful episode? Short little 10 to 20 minutes about the hierarchy of human optimization and the first, seemingly the most important foundational principle of the entire hierarchy of human optimization, and that is balance. For those of you that aren't familiar with the hierarchy of human optimization, it is the core and foundation of lifestyle healthcare, the one and only most complete style of healthcare on this planet, because we go into several things that aren't even associated with your health in the common medical paradigm, like time management, financial management, relationships. But before we even go into those things, we talk about balancing your neurological system, finding alignment of your identity, of your mental, your spiritual, and physical selves, getting you the best nutrition for you so that you can actually thrive with a vibrant and vital amount of energy to start to move and get suppleness and fluidity and strength back into your body. See, I've used this system on myself and with my clients for almost 2 decades now and seen the most amazing results, some of which are dedicated and documented in my book, The Ancient Art of Living Well. Look for it on Amazon, coming out soon. We got the proofs coming to us, and they're simply unbelievable. But today we're going to talk about simply principle number 1, the principle of balance, something we all can use a little more of in our life. Now, what exactly are we trying to balance? What are the things that go out of balance? Well, in the most complicated sense, we're talking about our neurological system and the information that goes into our body and how we process it, and how we either are in a state of responsiveness and reactivity in that survival mechanism, or we are in resting, digesting, and healing in that growth and thriving state. So we can either have a choice to survive or thrive. We can't do both, right? And we want to try to minimize in the ways that we are in that response and reactive state, that survival mechanism. And how do we do that? There's basically 3 different ways that we can balance our neurological system. 8 weeks ago, on our first rendition through the first level of the hierarchy, we talked about sleep and setting you up with a pre-sleep routine, a during sleep routine, and a post. What are the routine things, the ritualized things you should be doing to help you sleep better? Next, in 8 weeks from now, we're going to start talking about neuro reconditioning, which is a beautiful science of using the technology of acoustic software in your ears, even optical software for your eyes, and tactile software for your body, to have more sensory input to rebalance your brain and your hemispheres of your brain, which govern all the things in your body. But today we're going to put those 2 things aside. We're going to talk about level 2. And this is a beautiful topic, so popular today: meditation and mindfulness. And what are these 2 things? Why do they work? See, meditation and mindfulness are new things in our Western minds, right? Like, they've been around for millennia, for eons, all throughout the rest of the world. But for us in the West, we've kind of been left behind on this, as the need for science kind of pushed away some of these mystical and magical and spiritual things. But now we live in a time, like Joe Dispenza says, where science is the modern language of mysticism. And we're able to use science to explain what is going on inside the body and inside the minds, or the brain. I shouldn't say the mind, inside the brain, tangible aspect of our body. The mind is intangible. What's going on between the brain, the body, the heart, and the psychological, intangible aspects of the mind. So I hear a lot of people talk about having challenges with meditating. And that's typically because in the West, we are most experienced with, the Zen Buddhist ideas of removing all stimulus, of finding nothingness, of erasing the five sensory inputs to the body, to give up attachment to things, including input into the body. And in doing so, it's very challenging because so many of us we have lives. We don't just live in a temple or a monastery studying these things and practicing all day. We have bills and kids and businesses and families and yards and all sorts of other things that are demanding of our attention. And in the West, we're very often taught to like bottle things up and not express emotions and feelings, so that just like a child that doesn't get the care that it needs to, when attention is taken away from it, it tends to cry out more. And we get our bodies at this place of relaxation. And when the body's at rest, the mind becomes active and vice versa. And because of that, when we put the body into a meditative position and we sit in our yoga pillows and we try to relax the body, all of a sudden the mind starts going, hey, now I have more energy and I should start thinking about this and that and this and this and all these other little problems that start coming up. And our mind just goes off trying to solve all of these situations. It becomes very hard to come back. So today I want to talk about a couple of the challenges we have, a couple suggestions and solutions I have for some of these challenges that we have when we are meditating. And if we have some time, we'll get into mindfulness as well as an equal important part of it. So there are two different schools of meditation, right? In general senses, there's one of emptying and one of filling. What I found myself as a practitioner of the Taoist arts, the Taoist styles, is that they work better for me. They're experiential. They're about keeping focus upon things or changing your focus upon things. If you've done a guided meditation where maybe they had you walk through a park and go into a forest and into a cave and find your spirit animals or something of that nature, those would be kind of in that category. It wouldn't necessarily be a Taoist ritual or a Taoist meditation, but they are giving you experiences. And in the Taoist mindset, we look to try to experience as many things in life. We want to know all the flavors so we can choose how to balance the flavors rather than to give up all flavors to have a balance of no flavors, right? So they're similar paths, they're different paths up the same mountain to the same point of finding balance, oneness, yoga, as you would put it, if you were studying the Southern Asian styles and Ayurvedic medicines. Try to find that oneness, that openness, that completeness where we are in balance with the universe and source and God or whatever it might be that you term. So in the Taoist meditations, very often we will, meditate on, let's say, a fire and what it's like to be the embers burning in the fire, make our body move like it and glow like the embers as they rush up and they get brighter and they settle down and have the licks of the flames dance up and they move and they dance. And what is it like to be that fire? What's it like to feel like that fire? What's it like to be the spark that pops up and shoots up and elevates up higher and higher and higher and higher? To give ourselves these experiences, and by visualizing them, by feeling them through moving the body, through having thought and breath and feeling, we incorporate the three parts of our reality: our minds, what we visualize; our bodies, what we feel; our minds, what we think; and our breath or our speech and the words, sounds, and resonance, the vibrations which we transmit. And these things become our feelings, our thoughts, and our experiences. And that's what makes brain chemistry change. So a lot of times we try to sit there and be like, think of nothing, think of nothing, think of nothing. It's pretty much a surefire way of failing. One of the funniest things I have experienced, I've experienced it, man, hundreds of times, if not more at this point, is people saying, you know what? It's New Year's, a new part of my life. I am going to start a practice of meditating every day. And I am going to wake up every morning and meditate for an hour. I'm like, You've never meditated before. The chances of you meditating for an hour are like someone who's never run before running a marathon. I'd like to see you get off the couch after never walking a mile and try to run 26.2 miles to the end of the marathon. If you were to do it, chances are you'd have such a challenging, difficult, and miserable experience, you probably wouldn't do it again for some time, right? And sometimes, every once in a while, we find one gifted student or soul who can do these things, and blessings to them for that. But that's not the average, that's not the norm. So one of the strategies I like to give people when they say, I try to sit and think about nothing, is if you are married to this idea, this lights are flashing here today, it's kind of cool. If you are married to the idea of sitting and thinking about nothing as your meditation, and you find thoughts coming into your mind, try this one simple strategy. Let the thoughts come in and make your goal of your meditation not to think about nothing, but to see how many times you can return back to thinking about nothing. See, it's not necessarily about staying in that nothingness, because if you're trying to stay in that nothingness, you're still trying to accomplish something which is part of the dilemma and the koan, what is the one sound of one hand clapping, or if a tree falls in the woods. It's an unanswerable question, right? It's a paradigm, it's a dichotomy. So rather than trying to think about nothing by thinking about nothing, which is something which just sets your brain up to fail in the beginning, to simply let whatever thoughts come in. And when you recognize and you have awareness, acknowledgement that you're thinking about something, that the mind has brought something to your attention, just let yourself forget about it and see if you can go back. Hey, I'm thinking about that. Okay, well, let it go. And return back to thinking about nothing. So that's an absolutely amazing strategy. I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of beginner, novice, and even expert meditators start using that idea and having such great benefit from it. Another way we incorporate this too in the Taoist practices is practices what we call, translates to sitting in forgetfulness. And sitting in forgetfulness is a beautiful thing. It's the same kind of process. When something comes to your mind, just forget about it. What would it be like? What would it look like in your imagination to forget about that cherry tree, right? Would it just dissolve its leaves and flowers, blow off into the breeze? Right? Does it dissolve into glitter and into nothingness? Does it just fade from distance? The colors just draw out. How does it disappear when you forget about it? And whatever thoughts, whatever feelings, whatever sensations or ideas come to the body or come to the minds, just simply forget about it in your own way. And if you don't know how to, just imagine what it would be like. Pretend. Just forget about it. Something comes to your body. Oh, there that is. What would it be like if I forgot about it? And you'd be really, really surprised by just asking that question. What would it be like if I forgot about it? Your brain will be like, hey, you know what it would be like? It would be like this. It would be almost like it went away. You go, no shit. It actually went away. Because the brain has 3 jobs to answer these 3 questions. What is it? What does it mean to me? And what should I do with it? And by asking it that question, what would it be like if I was to forget about this? You're really like, huh, what would it be like to forget about it? Let me give you the answer. If you were to forget about it, it would be like this. And simply you'll forget about it. So those are 2 phenomenal strategies. Another one we can use involves our breath. It's a very, very simple practice. As we breathe in, a lot of times we pay attention to counts of breaths, timing of breath, positioning or feeling of breath. A very easy way to get lost in the nothingness is to just be aware of the space between your breaths. So as you breathe in through your nose, and whether you breathe out through your mouth or out through your nose, I don't care at this point. They each have specific intentions and reasons and different biophysiological things they do. Breathing in through your nose, stimulating your nitric oxide emitters to open up and blood vessels to open in your body. All sorts of cool things happen. But we don't need to worry about that. Let's talk about basic things, foundation levels. Whether you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, or in through your nose and out through your nose. Take a notice of the moment where the breath pauses. So feel the breath come in. And feel it come out. And be aware of the stillness that happens between the in and the out. And this is a really powerful, really, really powerful way to actually calm the mind down. If you're in a state of anxiety, getting palpitations, oppression in your chest, restlessness, irritability, discontent, those RIDs we talk about, it's a very, very simple way. By not focusing on the breath in, the breath out, because the breathing becomes the action. We try to be aware of the space in between. And what happens by being aware of the space in between, your brain's going to search deeper and deeper. It's put more little antennas into that time in between those breaths. And guess what? The time in the breath in between the breaths will become greater because the mind's spending more time being absolved in that area, being aware, being incorporated in depth with it. Ooh, my light just turned out. Oh, it's back. Lights out. Right? When we spend time focusing on something, time seems to dissolve and extend itself. So by spending time to breathe in, be aware of that pause in between, find the stillness, find the exact spot where breath in stops and breath out begins. Just like the tide, there's a high point where it stops and then it goes back and it stops and then it comes back in again. We want to find those two still points and see how it feels and take notice of it, right? There's no right or wrong way, right? Sometimes when I meditate, my meditations are simply, hey, you know what? It's going to be thinking time today. One of my teachers, Keith Cunningham, talks about scheduling thinking time in your schedule. Just any time, once a week, once a month, to sit down in a chair with a pen and paper. And he's got instructions on how to actually do thinking time correctly, because the first several times he did it incorrectly and just didn't get the results he was looking for. And he's improved his way over time. But he explains thinking time as a time to sit down and just clear your mind of those thoughts and brainstorm, let new ideas come to life. Let the brain's juices just kind of get a little juicier. And that's important for us as well, too, especially in the Western world where we don't have the ability to sit in a temple. I've lived in temples where we had time to just sit and do our routine. And we trained our martial arts, we meditated, we did our chants and our prayers, we ate some food, we cleaned up, we meditated, we did our martial arts, and we had our schedule every day. But guess what? There was nothing else to worry about. So when it came time to do those things, we just focused on that because that's all we had to do. And our worlds here are much, much different. So it's much more challenging. And I don't know one monk who's lived in a temple and came back to civilized life, to the lay person's life, the public life, and went, oh yeah, I got the stuff down. Everyone went, wow, it was so much easier in the temple when I had nothing else to worry about. Now this is the real test. This is the real challenge, putting this shit together in real life. So let's learn how to do it in real life. Right? And doing it in real life comes back to being mindful. Right? Being mindful is being aware of what our mind is doing. What are the thoughts, the language of the mind, and what are the feelings, the language of your body that you experience throughout the day? And those two things combine to the resonance, the frequency, the vibration, and the sounds that we make, our breath. So to be mindful is to be aware of both our minds, our bodies, and our breath. And in fact, we call these the three kingdoms, right? There is an internal kingdom. An internal kingdom that is the kingdom. Let me see if I can turn this a little bit. Ooh, all right, a little glare coming in the window here. There's an internal kingdom that is the kingdom that is within you. It is the one that nobody else can see, nobody else can feel, nobody else can experience. And at many times we have challenges in expressing it to other people, right? This internal kingdom is the kingdom of your mind, right? And there's deeper internal Taoist kingdoms of the organs and things like that. But right now I'm talking about the internal self. Then there is the kingdom of our body, right? Where like we have our organs, and we have nerves and bones and muscles and even emotions that we can feel, right? If you feel fear, like you feel it in certain areas, you feel anger, you feel in other areas, you feel joy, you feel arousal, attraction, desire, passion, motivation, inspiration. All of these feelings are felt in different areas of the body. The creations of the mind and communicating with the body, and the body giving feedback to the mind of what is going on, but is the language of the body. So we have this middle kingdom, which is the kingdom of our flesh, and that which it is that we use to interact with the material world around us. And then there's the outer kingdom of the actual world around us, of other people, of the weather, of the seasons, of the red lights and the stopping brake lights in the cars in front of you, of the signs trying to get your attention, the children crying for your attention, the customers and the bosses asking you to do things. or whatever it might be around the world around you. Maybe it's beautiful waterfalls and scenic hikes and flowers and ocean waves and sunsets, but they're all manifestations of different energies and different inputs of information that come into us through our five senses, speak to our spirit and our heart, and expressed in the flesh of the body as feelings and translated by thoughts of the mind. So we talk about meditation, we talk about mindfulness. There are two tools to work and to do one simple thing. And both those times, we are simply trying to change the brain wave frequencies so that they change how our nerves signal to our body, what our glands and hormones produce, to the chemicals that make us have experiences and change how our bodies operate so that we can operate in reaction and response to the world around us, or in balance and peace with the world around us. So I hope this gives you a little bit deeper insight as to what we are trying to do when we meditate, why sometimes we fail during meditations, and some very simple, applicable, real-world ways where we can change a failure of a meditation. And some would say there are no failed meditations. I've had some meditations that failed. I had some where I woke up from and I got out of it, I was like, this just isn't working today. And some would say maybe it was lack of will. Some would say maybe it was time to just let go. For me, I would say it just didn't work that day, right? And it's okay. Not everything works every single day. Ever have writer's block? You can't beat writer's block by just sitting there and I'm gonna fight through it. Sometimes you just gotta let it go, let faith have its way. Release it. If you let it go and it comes back to you, it was yours to begin with, right? So I've had meditation that have failed, and hopefully some of these techniques and strategies that I've suggested for you today help to give you some better tactics and some better strategies and more success with finding balance in your life. Because we cannot move forward to trying to find optimal health and happiness and fulfillment in our lives without first coming to balance with our autonomic nervous system. Because our autonomic nervous system is, its only job is simply to be in reaction and responsivity to balance that which is going on outside of us. And if we can consciously bring ourselves to that place of balance, then there's less tilt, there's less change, there's more stability and a stronger foundation for us to build onto. So stay tuned, because next week we're going to talk about how we, how we can start to create alignment within our bodies, and alignment within our identities, alignment within our mind, our body, and our spirit. What's really cool about this, we're going to go into some things that most people in the inner circles of alchemy don't talk about. We're going to talk about our narrative and our patterns. See, last 8 weeks ago, we spoke about our chi, how to start finding alignment of our chi, our body, our mind, and our breath. This time, we're going to start talking about our narrative. So the stories that we tell ourselves, and whether they are our own stories or somebody else's stories. Is it internally created by you, or is it externally created by other people and given to you? And then on top of that, are either one of them true or false, right or wrong? Do they serve you or not? Are they empowering or disempowering for you? And then on top of that, we're going to add a second layer on top of our stories, is the patterns that we do. Repetitive procedures that we act on. Because one of the ways that our brains and our physiologies work is by wiring things into the subconscious so that they become automatic. And we want to know, are these patterns that we're acting upon, are they conscious or unconscious? And again, are they serving you, or are they not? Are they doing you a disservice? Are they moving you towards your goals or away? Are they empowering you or disempowering you? So stay tuned for this week as we move through some success tips and strategies free for you in the Healthy, Happy, and Fulfilled group about meditation and mindfulness. For those of you that are in the Modern Day Alchemist group, we're going to go much deeper and go over some of the deeper techniques, deeper meditations, the energetics, and some of the rituals that you'll be adding into your life to lead yourself to a life of health, happiness, and fulfillment, so that you can create the internal alchemy by consciously gaining control of the chemicals reactions happening inside of your body to make you healthy, happy, and fulfilled, and live that life of perpetual momentary bliss. Be well, my friends, and of course, live life fully.